The Geneva Bible, including the marginal notes of the Reformers, 1587 edition. Micah, chapter 1, verse 1 and on. The word of the Lord that came to Micah, the born in Mareshah, a city of Judah. Morasthite in the days of Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah, which he saw concerning Samaria and Jerusalem. The argument, Micah the prophet of the tribe of Judah, served in the work of the Lord concerning Judah and Israel at least 30 years, during which time Isaiah prophesied. He declares the destruction first of the one kingdom and then of the other, because of their manifold wickedness, but chiefly because of their idolatry. And to this end he notes the wickedness of the people, the cruelty of the princes and governors, and the allowing of the false prophets, and the delighting in them. Then he sets forth the coming of Christ, his kingdom, and the felicity of it. This prophet was not that Micah who resisted Ahab and all his false prophets, 1 Kings 22:8, but another with the same name. Here, verse 2, because of the malice and obstinacy of the people whom he had so often exhorted to repentance, he summons them to God's judgment, taking all creatures, and God himself as witness, that the preaching of the prophets which they have abused will be avenged. All ye people, hearken, O earth, and all that therein is, and let the Lord God be witness against you, the Lord from his holy temple. 3. For, behold, the Lord cometh forth out of his place, and will come. Meaning by this that God will come to judgment against the strong cities and strongholds, down and tread upon the high places of the earth. And the mountains shall melt under him, so shall the valleys clear, as wax before fire, and as the waters that are powered downward. For the transgression of Jacob is all this, and for the sins of the house of Israel. What is the transgression of Jacob? Is it not Samaria, which should have been an example to all Israel of true religion and justice, was the dirty pool and the tank that all idolatry and corruption was kept alive in, and who prided themselves in their father Jacob and boasted of him? Samaria. And what are the high, that is, the idolatry and infection, places of Judah? Are they not Jerusalem? Therefore I will make Samaria as an heap of the field, and for the planting of a vineyard, and I will cause the stones thereof to tumble down into the valley, and I will discover the foundations thereof, and all the graven images thereof shall be beaten to pieces, and all the which they gathered by evil practices, and thought their idols had enriched them with these wages because of their service to them, higher thereof shall be burned with the fire, and all the idols thereof will I lay desolate, for she gathered it of the hire of an harlot, and they shall return. The gain that came by their idols will be consumed as a thing of nothing. For as the wages or riches of harlots are wickedly gotten, so are they vilely and quickly spent to the hire of an harlot. Therefore I will mourn and howl. I will go without clothes and naked. I will make lamentations like the dragons, and mourning as the ostriches. For her plagues are grievous, for it come into Judah. The enemy is come unto the gate of my people, unto Jerusalem. Declare ye it not, at least the Philistines are enemies. Rejoice at our destruction. Gath, weep ye not at all, in the house of which was a city near to Jerusalem. Josiah 18:23. They're called Oprah, or Ophrah, and signifies dust. Therefore he wants them to mourn and roll themselves in the dust for their dusty city. Ophrah, roll thyself in the dust. Pass ye away, thou inhabitant of these were cities by which the enemy would pass as he came to Judah. Saphir, having thy shame naked. The inhabitant of Zanan came not forth in the morning of Bet Ezel, or Beit Hazel. He will not depart before he has overcome you, and so you will pay for his staying. Receive of you his standing. For the inhabitant of Marath waited carefully for good, but evil came down from the Lord unto for Rabshakeh had shut up Jerusalem, so that they could not send to help them, gate of Jerusalem. O thou inhabitant of Lachish, bind the chariot to flee away, for Sennacherib laid siege first to that city, and remained there when he sent his captains, an army against Jerusalem. Swift beast, you first received the idolatry of Jeroboam, and so infected Jerusalem. Is the beginning of the sin to the daughter of Zion, for the transgressions of Israel were found in thee. Therefore shalt thou give presents to. You will bribe the Philistines your neighbors, but they will deceive you, as well as those of Jerusalem. Morish Gaith, the houses of Achzib, shall be a lie to the kings of Israel, or their governors. Yet will I bring, and he prophesies against his own city, and because it signified a heritage, he says that God will send an heir to possess it. Heir unto thee, O inhabitants of Medeshah, he shall come unto Adullam, for so they thought themselves because of the strength of their cities, the glory of Israel. Make thee bald, and shave thee for thy delicate children. Enlarge thy baldness as the eagle, for they are gone into captivity for thee. Chapter 2. Woe to them that devise iniquity, and work evil upon their beds. As soon as they rise, they execute their wicked devices of the night, and according to their ability hurt others. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields, and take them by violence, and houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even man in his heritage. Therefore thus saith the Lord, Behold, against the family have I devised a plague, whereout ye shall not pluck your necks, and ye shall not go so proudly. For this time is evil. In that day shall one take up a parable against you, and lament with a doleful lamentation, and say, Thus the Jews lament and say that there is no hope of restitution, seeing their possessions are divided among the enemies. We be utterly spoiled. He hath changed a portion of my people. How hath he removed it from me? Turning away, he hath divided our fields. Therefore thou shalt have none that shall cast a cord by lot, and you will have no more land to divide as you had in times past, and as you used to measure them in the Jubilee, the congregation of the Lord. Thus the people warn the prophets that they speak to them no more, for they cannot endure their threatenings. Prophesy ye not, say they to them that prophesy. God says that they will not prophesy, nor receive any more of their rebukes or taunts. They shall not prophesy to them. They shall not take shame. That they shall not take shame. They shall not prophesy to them, that they shall not take shame. O thou that art named the house of Jacob, is the Spirit of the Lord straitened? Are these your works according to his law? Are these his doings? Do not my words do good to him? Do not the godly find my words comfortable, that walketh uprightly? Even that is, in past times, of late my people is risen up as an enemy. You pull off the poor, can have no benefit from them, but they rob them as though they were enemies. Robe with the garment from them that pass by securely as men averse to war. The women of my people have cast out from their pleasant houses. From their children have you taken away, that is, their substance and living, which is God's blessing, and as it were part of his glory, my glory forever. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your, Jerusalem will not be your safeguard, but rather the cause of your destruction. Rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you even with a sore destruction. If a man, that is, show himself to be a prophet, walking in the spirit, and falsehood do lie, saying, he shows what prophets they delight in, that is, in flatterers, who tell them their pleasant tales and speak of their benefits. I will prophesy unto thee of wine, and of a strong. I will prophesy unto thee of wine, and of strong drink. He shall even be the prophet of this people. I will surely assemble, O Jacob, to destroy you, all of thee. I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. I will put them together as the sheep of Bozrah, as the flock in the midst of their fold. They shall make great noise by reason of the multitude of men. The enemy will break their gates and walls and lead them into Chaldea. Breaker is come up before them. They have broken up and have passed through the gate and are gone out by it, and their king shall pass before them, and the Lord to drive them forward and to help their enemies on the head of them. And I said, hear, I pray you, O heads of Jacob, and ye princes of the house of Israel. It is not for you to know that things which is just and lawful, both to govern my people properly, and also to clear your own conscience. Judgment. Who hate the good and love the evil? The prophet condemns the wicked governors, not only of covetousness, theft, and murder, but compares them to wolves, lions, and most cruel beasts, who pluck off their skin from off them, and their flesh from off their bones. And they eat also the flesh of my people, and flay off their skin from them, They break their bones and chop them in pieces as for the pot, and as flesh within the cauldron. Then, that is, when I punish their wickedness, for though I hear the godly before thy cry, yet I will not hear these even though they cry. Isaiah 1:15, Ezekiel 8:18, 1 Peter 3:11 through 12. Shall they cry unto the Lord? But he will not hear them. He will even hide his face from them at that time, as they have behaved themselves in their doings. Thus saith the Lord concerning the prophets that make my people err, they that devour all their substance, and then flatter them, promising that all will go well. But if someone does not feed them, then they invent all ways to do evil, bite with their teeth, and cry, Peace. And he that putteth not into their mouth, they even prepare war against him. Therefore, as you have loved to walk in darkness, and to prophesy lies, so God will reward you with gross blindness and ignorance, so that when all others will see the bright beams of God's grace, you will as blind men grope as in the night. Night shall be unto you, that ye shall not have a vision, and it shall be dark unto you, that ye shall not divine, and the sun shall go down over the prophets, and the day shall be dark over them. They shall see the seers be ashamed, and the diviners confounded. Yea, they shall all cover. When God will reveal them to the world, they will be afraid to speak. For all will know that they were but false prophets, and did give a false notion of the word of God. Their lips, for there is no answer of God. But truly I am full. The prophet, being assured of his vocation by the Spirit of God, sets himself alone against the wicked, showing how God gave him gifts, ability, and knowledge to discern between good and evil, and also steadfastness and endurance to reprove the sins of the people, and not to flatter them, of power by the Spirit of the Lord, and of judgment and of might to declare unto Jacob his transgression, and to Israel his sin. Hear this, I pray you, ye heads of the house of Jacob, and princes of the house of Israel. They abhor judgment and pervert all equities. They build up Zion they will say that they are the people of God, and abuse his name as a pretense to disguise their hypocrisy. Blood, and Jerusalem with iniquity. The heads thereof judge for rewards, and the priests thereof teach for hire, and the prophets thereof prophesy for money. Yet they will lean upon the Lord, and say, Is not the Lord among us? No evil can come upon us. Therefore shall Zion for your sake be plowed as a field, and Jerusalem shall become heaps, and the mountain of the house as the high places of the forest. Chapter 4. But when Christ will come, and the temple will be destroyed, last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above, Isaiah 2:2, hills, and people shall flow unto it. And many nations shall come and say, Come, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, and to the house of the God of Jacob. And he shows that there is no true church, except where the people are taught by God's pure word. Teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among many people, and by his corrections and threatenings he will bring the people into subjection, who are in the utmost corners of the world. And he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. They will abstain from all evil doing, and exercise themselves in godliness and in well-doing to others. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. Isaiah 2:4. But they shall sit, every man under his vine, and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid. For the mouth of the Lord of hosts hath spoken it. For all people will walk, every one in the name of his God, and we will walk in the name of the Lord our God forever and ever. He shows that the people of God ought to remain constant in their religion, even if all the world should give themselves to their superstition and idolatry. At the same day, saith the Lord, will I gather her that halteth, and I will gather her that is cast out, and her that I have afflicted. And I will make her that halted. I will cause that Israel, who is now as one lame and halting, and so almost destroyed, to live again, and grow into a great people. And I will make her that halted a remnant, even Lot's wife, and her that was cast off as a strong nation, even as Miriam. And the Lord shall reign over them in Mount Zion from henceforth, even forever. And thou, meaning Jerusalem, where the Lord's flock was gathered, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee shall it come, even the first dominion. The king shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem, the flourishing state of the kingdom, as it was under David and Solomon, which thing was accomplished for the church by the coming of Christ. Now why dost thou cry out aloud? Is there no king in thee? In the meantime he shows that they would endure great troubles and temptations, when they saw themselves neither to have king nor counsel. Is thy counselor perished? For pangs have taken thee as a woman in travail, sorrow and mourn. O daughter of Zion, like a woman in travail, for now shalt thou go forth of the city, and dwell in the field, and shalt go into Babel, but there shalt thou be delivered. There the Lord shall redeem thee from the hand of thine enemies. Now also many nations are gathered against thee, saying, Zion shall be condemned, and our eyes shall look upon Zion. But they know not the thoughts of the Lord, neither understand they his counsel. For he shall gather them as the sheaves into the floor. He shows that the faithful ought not to measure God's judgment by the braggings and threatenings of the wicked, but by these are admonished to lift up their heads to God, to call for deliverance. Arise and thresh, O daughter of Zion, for I will make thine horn iron, and I will make thy hooves brass, and thou shalt beat in pieces many people, and I will consecrate their gain unto the Lord, and their substance unto the Lord of the whole earth. God gives his church this victory as often as he overcomes their enemies, but the accomplishment of this will be at the last coming of Christ. The last coming of Christ. Chapter 5. Now, gather thyself in troops, O daughter. He forewarns them of the dangers that will come before they enjoy these comforts, showing that inasmuch as Jerusalem was accustomed with her garrisons to trouble others, the Lord would now cause other garrisons to vex her, and that her rulers will be hit on the face most contemptuously. Now gather thyself in troops, O daughter. Of troops he hath laid siege against thee. Of troops he hath laid siege against us. They shall smite the judge of Israel with the rod upon the cheek. But thou, Bethlehem, Ephratah, though thou be, for so the Jews divided their country, that for every 1,000 there was a chief captain, or for so Jethro divided their country, their nation, that every 1,000 was a chief captain. And because Bethlehem was not able to make 1,000, he calls it little. But yet God will raise up his captain and governor in it. And thus it is not the least by reason of this benefit. Matthew 2:6. Though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me that is to be ruler in Israel, whose going forth hath been from of old, by day or by night, from everlasting. He shows that the coming of Christ and all his ways were appointed by God from all eternity. Therefore will he give them up until the time that he compares the Jews to women with child, who for a time would have great sorrows, but at length they would have a comfortable deliverance. She which travaileth hath brought forth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel. And he shall, that is, Christ's kingdom, will be stable and everlasting, and his people, the Gentiles as well as the Jews, will dwell in safety. And he shall stand and feed in the strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord his God. And they shall abide, for now he be great unto the ends of the earth. And this man, this Mashiach, will be a sufficient safeguard for us. And though the enemy invades us for a time, yet will God stir up many who will be able to deliver us. He shall be the peace when the Assyrian shall come into our land, and when he shall tread in our palaces. Then shall we rise against him 7 shepherds and 8 principal men, and they shall waste these whom God will raise up from the deliverance of his church, these whom God will raise up for the deliverance of his church, will destroy all the enemies of it, who are meant here by the Assyrians and Babylonians, who were the chief enemies at that time. And they shall waste the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrud and the entrances thereof. Thus shall he, by these governors will God deliver us when the enemy comes into our land. Deliver us from the Assyrian, when he cometh into our land, and when he treadeth within our borders. And this remnant, or church, which God will deliver, will depend on God's power and defense. As does the grass of the field, and not on the hope of man. Remnant of Jacob shall be in your midst, of many people as a dew from the Lord, as the showers upon the grass, that tarrieth not for man, nor waiteth for the sons of men. And the remnants of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the middle of my people, and the lion among the beasts of the forest, as the lion among the beasts of the forest. And the remnants of Jacob shall be among the Gentiles in the middle of my people, as the lion among the beasts of the forest, and as the lion's well, and as the lion's whelp among the flocks of sheep, who when he goeth through, treadeth down and teareth in pieces, and none can deliver. Thine hand shall be lifted up upon thine adversaries, and all thine enemies shall be cut off. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Lord, that I will cut off I will destroy all things in which you put your confidence, such as your vain self-reliance and idolatry. And in doing this, I will be helping you. So I will destroy thine enemies. Horses out of the midst of thee, and I will destroy thy chariots. And I will cut off the cities of thy land, and overthrow all thy strongholds. And I will cut off thine enchanters out of thine hand, and thou shalt have no more soothsayers. Thine idols are also will I cut off, and thine images out of the midst of thee, and thou shalt no more worship the work of thine hands. And I will pluck up thy groves out of the midst of thee, so I will destroy thine enemies. And I will execute vengeance and danger and fury upon the heathen. It will be so terrible that nothing like it has been heard of, such as they have not heard. Chapter 6. Hear ye now that the Lord saith, Arise, contend thou before the mountains, and let the hills hear thy voice. He took the high mountains and hard rocks as witnesses against the obstinacy of his people. Hear ye, O mountains, the Lord's quarrel, and ye mighty foundations of the earth. For the Lord has a quarrel against his people, and he will plead with Israel. O my people, what have I done unto thee? Or wherein have I grieved thee? Testify against me. For I have not hurt you, but bestowed infinite benefits upon you. For I brought you up out of the land of Egypt, and redeemed thee out of the house of servants. And I sent before thee Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. O my people, remember now what Balak, king of Moab, consulted, and what Balaam, the son of Beor, answered him from Shittim unto Gilgal. That is, remember my benefits from the beginning, how I delivered you from Balaam's curse, and also spared you from Shittim, which was in the plain of Moab, until I brought you into the promised land, that ye may know that righteousness of the Lord, that is, the truth of his promise, and his manifold benefits toward you. Wherewith shall I come before the Lord, and bow myself before the high God? Shall I come before him with burnt offerings, with calves of a year old? Thus the people by hypocrisy ask how to please God, and are content to offer sacrifices, but will not change their lives. Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams, or with 10,000s of rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgressions, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? There is nothing so dear to man, but the hypocrites will offer it to God, if they think by this to avoid his anger. But they will never be brought to mortify their own affections, and to give themselves willingly to serve God as he commands. He hath showed thee, O man, what is good. And what doth the Lord require of thee? The prophet in few words calls them to the observation of the second table of the 10 Commandments, to know if they will obey God correctly or not, saying that God has commanded them to do this, but to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. The Lord's voice crieth unto the city, meaning that when God speaks to any city or nation, the godly will acknowledge his majesty and not consider the mortal man that brings the threatening, but God that sends it. The Lord's voice crieth unto the city, and the man of wisdom shall see thy name. Hear ye the rod, and who hath appointed it? Are yet the treasures of wickedness in the house of the wicked, and the scant measure that is abominable? Shall I justify the wicked balances in the bag of deceitful weights? For the rich men thereof, that is, of Jerusalem, are full of violence, and the inhabitants thereof have spoken lies, and their tongue is deceitful in their mouth. Therefore also will I make thee sick in smiting thee, and in making thee desolate because of thy sins. Thou shalt eat, but not be satisfied, and thy casting down shall be in the midst of thee. Ye will be consumed with inward grief and evils, meaning that the city would go about to save her men as they that lay hold of that which they would preserve. And thou shalt take hold, but shalt not deliver. And that which thou deliverest will I give up to the sword. Thou shalt sow, but not reap. Thou shalt tread the olives, but thou shalt not anoint thee with oil. And make sweet wine, but shalt not drink wine. For statutes of Omri are kept, and all the works of the house of Ahab, and ye walk in their counsels. You have received all the corruption and idolatry with which the 10 tribes were infected under Omri and Ahab his son. And to excuse your doings, you allege the king's authority by his statutes, and also wisdom and policy in so doing, but you will not escape punishment. But as I have shown you great favor and taken you for my people, so will your plagues be according as your sins. That I shall make thee a desolation, and the inhabitants thereof an hissing. Therefore ye shall bear the reproach of my people. Chapter 7. Woe is me, for I am as when they have gathered the summer fruits, as the great gleanings of the vintage. There is no cluster to eat. My soul desired the first ripe fruit. The prophet takes upon himself the voice of the earth, which complains that all her fruits are gone, so that none are left, that is, that there is no godly man remaining, for all are given to cruelty and deceit, so that none spares his own brother. The good man is perished out of the earth, and there is none upright among men. He shows that the prince, the judge, and the rich man are all linked together to do evil, and to distinguish and to disguise the deeds of one another. They all lie in wait for blood. They hunt every man his brother with a net, that they may do evil with both hands earnestly. The prince asketh, and the judge asketh for a reward, and that is, the rich man that is able to give money abstains from no wickedness or injury. And the great man, he uttereth his mischievous desire, so they wrap it up. These men agree among themselves and conspire with one another to do evil, but are not evil. The best of them is as a briar. They that are of most estimation and are counted most honest among them are but thorns and briars to prick. The most upright is sharper than a thorn hedge. The day of meeting the prophets and governors, the day of thy watchmen, and thy visitation cometh. Now shall be their perplexity. Trust ye not in a friend, neither put your confidence in a counselor. Keep the doors of thy mouth from her that lieth in thy bosom. For the son ruleth the father, yea, daughter riseth up against her mother. The daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and a man's enemies are the men of his own house. Therefore, the prophet shows that the only remedy for the godly is in desperate evils is to flee to God for help. I will look unto the Lord. I will wait for the God of my salvation. My God will hear me. Rejoice not against me, O mine enemy. This is spoken in the voice of the church, which calls the malignant church her enemy. When I fall, I shall arise. When I sit in darkness, the Lord shall be a light unto me. I will bear the wrath of the Lord because I have sinned against him, until he plead my cause and execute judgment for me. Then he will bring me forth to the light, and I shall see his righteousness. Then she that is mine enemy shall look upon it, and shame shall cover her, which said unto me, Where is the Lord thy God? As Job's wife said unto him, Mine eyes shall behold her, now shall she be trodden down as the mire of the streets. Under a wind blown from the east. In the day that thy walls are to be built, that is, when God will show himself to be a deliverer of the church and a destroyer of his enemies, a reformer of his enemies. In that day shall, meaning the cruel empire of the Babylonians, of those who speak, the decree be far removed. In that day also he shall come even to thee from Assyria, and from the fortified cities, and from the fortress, even to the river, and from sea to sea, and from mountain to mountain. When the church will be restored, those that were enemies before will come out of all the corners of the world to her, so that neither fortresses, rivers, seas, nor mountains will be able to stop them. Notwithstanding, the land shall be desolate because of them that dwell therein, for the fruit of their doings. Before this grace appears, he shows how grievously the hypocrites themselves will be punished, seeing that the earth itself, which cannot sin, will be made waste because of their wickedness. The prophet prays to God to be merciful to his church when they would be scattered abroad in solitary places in Babylon, and to be beneficial to them as in times past. Feed thy people with thy rod, the flock of thine heritage, which dwell solitary in the midst of Carmel. Let them feed in Bashan and Gilead, as in the days of old. God promises to be favorable to his people, as he had been before. According to the days of thy coming out of the land of Egypt will I show him marvelous things. The nations shall see and be confounded at all their might. The nations shall see and be confounded at all their might. They will be as dumb men and dare brag no more. They will lay their hands upon their mouth, even their fingertip. They will be astonished and afraid to hear men speak, lest they should hear of their destruction. Their ears shall be deaf. They will fall flat on the ground because of fear. Lick the dust like a serpent. They shall move out of their holes like worms of the earth. They shall be afraid of the Lord our God, and shall fear because of thee. Who is a God like unto thee, that pardoneth iniquity, and, as though he did not see it, passes by the transgression of the remnant of his heritage? He retaineth not his anger forever, because he delighteth in mercy. He will turn again. He will have compassion upon us. He will subdue our iniquities, and thou wilt cast all their sins into the depths of the sea. Thou wilt perform truth to Jacob. The church is assured that God will perform the truth of his merciful promise and the mercy to Abraham, which he made long ago to Abraham, which thou hast sworn, and to all that would apprehend the promise by faith, unto our fathers from the day of old.